Welcome, everybody. You are listening to the Omnichannel Podcast, a podcast from digital marketers to digital marketers. I'm your host, Dominique Legrand, and my mission is to help fellow marketers and entrepreneurs to grow their businesses online. So buckle up and let's get started. Hi everyone. In today's episode, I had a chance to talk to Sam, and he has been absolutely amazing in giving so much valuable advice. I don't even know where to start. We spoke about how he scaled his agency over 100K and what were some of the mistakes that he had to learn through the process. We talked about qualifying clients. We talked about what are the mindset that someone had to adopt when it comes to scaling your businesses. We also talked about hiring and firing and the process of going about that and how to build a company culture that is based on transparency. Sam also shared his techniques in closing. And if you guys are interested in, he said some very, very important key things when it comes to your closing technique. And we also talked a bit about the pandemic and how he managed to persevere despite the pandemic. So we have so many interesting topics we covered throughout this podcast. I really hope that it's going to be just as interesting and insightful for you than it was for me. So if you're interested, keep on listening. All right, Sam. First of all, thank you so much for saying yes to my podcast. It's lovely to have someone like you here who helps agencies scale up from 100K per month, which is insane. Can you tell a bit more about your niche and how did you get into this business the first place?
Right. Yeah. So look, I started with sales. And I think that's a
Everybody,
common denominator. Right. That's a really common denominator. Like we got Gary V, like who used to pick flowers out of people's backyard and selling it back to them. And we got Sabri from King Kong as well. Like, they all kind of started from sales and they moved to marketing. And I think that I kind of had the same journey as well.
Me too, by the way. I work for GE.
Oh, really? Okay. What did you sell?
I was selling medical devices for scientists.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I was selling perfume and I was in a shopping center. I was just moving around selling in different shops. And, and that's where I was kind of like, very passionate about, the fact that we can influence someone, whether offline or online. Like that's where that passion begins. And then I moved to marketing with my business partner and one of my closest friend at the time, and we're still working together. That's been my journey. So it moved from, and the fact that I was good at sales, it really helped me. I think that's like the key to moving from 0 to 100K. For me, it happened really fast. And the reason is just, it happened quickly. Like it happened really quick. And I think it still could be quicker if I knew the fundamentals of, if I knew the fundamentals of running an actual business. And it happened because of sales. It happened because I was good at going and knocking on people's door. That's how I used to, that's how I started initially. I was knocking on people's door and like, okay, look, I want to grow your business. Let's book a time. You got 20 minutes. I'll come back on this date, on this, and this time. And then we talk about, how we can grow your business. And that's how I was getting the initial clients. And then there was the point, like, especially like when you go the first 100K, like in, AUD, there's a point where, you cannot have more time to actually work on the client to get them result. And you want to grow your, you want to turn 100K to 200K, like you want to double up your money again. And then there's just that ceiling where you're kind of stuck because the more time you're putting into getting clients, then you feel like you have less time to actually work on those clients, and you stop, reducing the quality of your delivery of your, your service. You start losing clients. And then there's that sort of ceiling that you it's like I'm almost stuck in, and that ceiling exists on every stage of business. You want to go from 100K to 200, 200 to 400. That always is there. So that was the ceiling I faced at the time. Then I started, learning a bit about like team building. Like it doesn't have to be me who do everything. Me and my business partner, we can get somewhere.
Did you get into 100K all by yourself or with your business partner?
Yes, with my business partner.
That's insane. I thought you had like a whole team running at the 100K and you just expanded somehow after.
Yeah, I got to 100K, then I had like, and I was kind of stuck there for a very long time
Mm-hmm.
because of that same reason I was mentioning. Like I just like, okay, I'll do the job, like, and then it's hard. Like I don't have time. I want to get more clients in. Like I'm getting clients, and by the way, not every client, like, I didn't know how to pre-qualify a client. I
Mm-hmm.
get someone and they just, they're not a good business people themselves, and that I'm just investing my time into someone who's not delivering their own service right.
Mm.
And then they're not having that pre-qualification. And one mistake I made, like if someone is listening, and if I want to, like, my goal is to add value to people listening to this podcast. One thing is focus on one thing. You don't need to be good at everything. That's what I started doing. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I want it all. I want to have it all. I'm super enthusiastic. I'm super passionate. I want to be every industry. I want to tackle every, I want to expand my service as much as I can, and I want to be the biggest I can. So it sounds good in theory. It just doesn't work. And it's just the slowest route you can go forward. So, so that's how I'm trying to, like, even still to this day, I'm trying to sharpen up, like, what exactly I'm good at, and just try to eliminate most of the things that I'm good at and start being great at one thing. It's the good versus great. You cannot make your first million being good at what you're doing. Like, you
You
got
have
to
to
be
be
great.
excellent at the end of the day and thrive for excellence,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, just look at one thing. Like, see what everything you're doing right now. What is one thing that you can be the best in the world at? And try
Mm.
to, like, it doesn't have to be too complicated. Like, that's a problem with, the academic way of learning about marketing. Like, you go on YouTube and you search about, what I need to do, and there's all these different terminologies, there's all these different things you can do, but at the end of the day, like, just it all of that, we're just putting terms into things that, we just want to make something, we want to make a meaning out of nothing.
Mm.
And we overcomplicate the processes to a point where we're just confusing, like, where do I get started? So
Yeah.
just focus one thing, just try simplify everything and be good. Like, for example, be good at, like, be the best in the world at getting leads for certain niche, which is what I'm trying to do. So right now, my niche that I'm focusing on is in flooring and blinds. These are the two industries that I'm very dominate on. Like, trying to dominate Australia on these two
Mm-hmm.
niches. And I'm getting them leads and I'm helping them nurture the leads and, convert them into customer.
Mm-hmm.
But being good at less things, it helps me to grow a lot faster.
So you are essentially with the sales. Are you still doing sale? Are you still closing, or are you the lead gen?
For myself, I'm closing as
Mm-hmm.
well. I
Okay.
think that's like the CEO. You cannot escape it. It's something that the CEO is always going to be something that they're going to be doing.
Yeah. So you have not outsourced the sales process. You still keep that in house, and you do that
Right.
yourself.
I did try it. So
Mm-hmm.
I did actually have a team. So, and we grew the team. Like, we had a team of three full-time salespeople. They were getting the leads. We were getting, like, we were doing our own marketing as well. And then we're trying to, have meetings. Like, there was a month where we had at least 3 booked in appointments every single day.
Hmm.
And that was like an ongoing, and we didn't have enough, I think the sales team, that they were not experienced enough. And I realized, like, I was kind of like, that sales is something that people don't want to do. It's like something that, like, we want to kind of run away from it. It's like, I hope someone else can do it for me. So I was in that position. I'm like, okay, no, I want to, my conversion rate is going to be always the highest.
Mm-hmm.
And if I, like, still involved in that process, but we're not getting as much new customers as, we used to, because we're pre-qualifying customers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for the first time, like this year, for the first time, there are people coming to us and I'll tell them, we're not going to work with you. That's
Mm-hmm.
something I could not imagine before. I'm like, oh, for this, I want more money. So
Yeah.
that mindset switch kind of happened in my mind. So I'm like, okay, the focus is on them getting results.
Do you think you also had to raise your prices in order to disqualify some people?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a bit, so if you don't dictate, the client going to dictate the processes, the prices. So me knowing a certain exact, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to work, this is how much we're going to communicate, and this is how it is. Like, I mean, doing this for a while, I know what works, what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how we're going to do it. I'm always open to optimize the processes, but that like, not just the prices, but even the how.
Mm-hmm.
Some clients, they want to have daily meetings. I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. It's going to waste your time and my time. So
Mm-hmm.
that became one reason we are getting less clients, and obviously the industry itself as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really good. I think that's important to really have those boundaries as well, and just know, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we're not going to do a website for you, and not going to do that. the rest of
Mhm.
it. Um, so are you still, and you said you're working in home improvement and that's your niche.
Right.
Yeah, and what do you think is next for you, like in that aspect? You said you want to dominate Australia. Do you want to, step out from that as well at some point, the country itself?
Yeah, well, that's something that it's it's something I think about, but I think I'm still haven't been close to even dominating those two niches in Australia. Like the
Mm-hmm.
market, like if I dominate those two industries, like I'm talking million plus income. So
Yeah.
I'm not close. So, but if I, so there's two routes that I'm thinking in my head, what's gonna be my next move. So once I dominated these two industries, it's either gonna be me making these two, focusing on the same niches, but going to other countries.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, the UK is very similar how the market is compared to Australia. So like, I can tackle UK.
Mm-hmm.
Or alternatively, I can add new, companies within new industries within Australia that are very
Mm-hmm.
similar to those two.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Like
so that's
related
like home
services, yeah.
improvement. So that's like, those are the two routes. Like I'm still like, I'm sure once I'm closer to dominating these two industries, then I will be, making a more certain decision. But for now, I'm just, those are the two potential routes for me to go in
Mm-hmm.
future.
So we talked about your qualifying process, and you said you pre-qualify leads. Can you talk a bit more about that? How does that look like for you?
Yeah, so it starts even from like who you're going to be targeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm not targeting every business in Australia. I'm first, like, there's few things that I'm qualifying in the customer avatar. One is obviously the client himself. They have to, that's something that we talk about through the sales process as well with them. So first, they have to be from these two industries.
Mm-hmm.
They have to actually want to grow their business, and they need to have to be, have the capacity to have enough more work for them to make it worth even having another agency helping them to even grow faster. And then like if they don't have the desire, like some people, they just want to maintain their income. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them in Australia. I think Australia, like it's a, it's the great, one of the best countries in the world. But one downside is people don't have the same desire as they have in America.
Mm-hmm.
Not every business owner wants to be the fastest. So they just want to have a good, relaxing life where they can go to the beach and enjoy the time with their
Yeah, I can
family.
feel you.
So those, yeah, absolutely. So those businesses, actually, those people are the people we know, right now we're not. That's something that we reject through the pre-qualifying. Because if they don't want to grow, like obviously they can have a fun life. I'm not saying that I just want to get people who don't want to have fun. No, I want people like that, but I don't want people who don't want to, like, don't want to grow their business. And once they come in, one other thing that I pre-qualify them on is their personality, their characteristic. They have to
Mm-hmm.
be already good at sales. They already have to be good at delivering the products. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that we can talk to them, communicate, and make sure that we get their agreement on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna give you this list. You're gonna waste all your, we're gonna waste all our efforts getting your leads.
So how
How,
do
yeah.
you, in practice, you said they already have to be making sales. So they're not, some scammy business. They have to have a desire to grow and they have to be in a certain industry. Like for yourself, it's
Mhm.
your niche. So
Correct.
in practice, like how does it look like? Do you get in a call and be like, hey, do you want to grow your business? Or are you put essentially already filtering it out by, an advertisement that is, hey, do you want to grow your business? Like how do you actually in practice go about the filtering process?
Yeah, so it's a list building. So usually we either call them or we also run ads as well. So we get
Mm-hmm.
like a list, and so the pre-qualifying starts from the list building.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Okay.
I've figured, like, so far from what I've been like the analysis that we have done, people with low page likes who have created their page recently and who are in these two industries, they're the highest chance of mix converting.
Mm-hmm.
So I create a list. So I kind of like, I have this Excel file and I stored it so I can target and start contacting these people, whether through email marketing, SMS marketing, and also through like Facebook ads. We have we run Facebook ads as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we book a time for us to talk to them. And then when
Mm-hmm.
we are talking to them, that's when I figure out if they're good at sales,
Yeah.
and then if they, and the rest of the, also the rest of the things that, we need to, this is how we work. Do you agree with this? This is
Mm-hmm.
what we do. This is what we expect from you. It's not only what you expect from us. This is, this is our expectation from you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have a good repetition in this business. Like, I had happy clients. I don't want my reputation to be ruined.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
will you be able to, will you be able to do your part for us to succeed together. And that if they say yes, and that's when we go ahead.
Wow, that's really good.
Right.
So can we talk about then the scaling? Because you said you were stuck at 100K, and kind of what are the practices, what are the mindset shift that someone has to implement in order to get past that mark?
Yeah. So first of all, you got to be profitable. So that's the thing. You got to know your input and output. Like, you got to know exactly how much it costs you to get that customer, how much is going to be money that ends in your pocket, profit that you can either put in back in the business or something that you end up, yourself with. That's something that's really important, especially like, again, you know, passion can sometimes be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I wanted everything, I wanted to do everything, all the services in the world I want to offer them. Like that's dangerous. Same thing happened with, with income as well. So at one point when I was stuck, I realized the reason is I'm just focusing so much on the income, not on the profit.
Mm.
And that, like, the way, in book investing books like Benjamin, what they say is, if you want to assess a company's health, if their company is healthy or not, you see if the profit is there or not. You don't
Mm-hmm.
look at the income, it's the profit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. So you got to realize, okay, this is how much profit I have, and that becomes like a success measure in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And like that already, like, you start playing out again, like you said yourself as well, you increase your prices if you have to, because
Yeah.
you make sure, okay, this is not profitable. So that's one way you can scale to bigger, because with that money you can start getting more team members,
Mm-hmm.
and it all becomes about building systems and building people. So you got to be good at these two things. So you got to see, okay, looking from the bird eye, from like looking down, like, what is my organization lacking? What is something that I cannot do myself? I prefer to give it to someone else. And you
Mm-hmm.
start breaking down your tasks. So if I show you like my task management, the way I manage my own tasks, like, there's 4 different columns, which is I learned it from 7 Habits of Successful People.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
says break down it in 4 columns, and the things that and that's how you know which task you can dedicate to someone else, and then
Mm-hmm.
you start thinking, okay, I need someone who can do these things. So that's the way I go about this, and that's what helped me to grow past that 100K, by just
Mm-hmm.
systemizing and also building the team. And then it's like, okay, cool, profit, system, building team, and now I can replicate the same success I had, and I can double, triple, and etc.
How much time do you invest in training these people, or do you already look for people that has those skills that you're looking for?
Yeah, it's both. So it has to be like, these people, they have to obviously like what they're doing. So we
Mm-hmm.
have weekly meetings where we discuss, we have meetings where we discuss about certain things that I think that's necessary, or something that maybe the company is lacking at the time. So we, like, one person, even like the managers in the company, they actually will do, they'll research, they'll talk about what the rest will get benefit from. And that's like the sort of culture we have. So everyone's kind of promoted to learn new things, so they prepare a presentation every week.
Oh,
And
wow.
also, like, so that's the ongoing thing we have. But initially it's also really important, like, who you get in your team. Because,
Mm-hmm.
in a book that was recommended by Jeff Bezos, Great versus Good, or Great to Good to Great,
Good to
the
great.
book
Yeah.
suggests, yes, so the book suggests, like, you get someone, you pre-assess, you pre-assess them, and then when you get them, you're either going to work with them for 2 months, or you're never going to work with them again. And
Mm-hmm.
that's and that's, by the way, that's another mistake I made initially as well, which was kind of making it harder to move from 100K to 200K, because I was getting people and I was making them become someone else. I was hoping, I build relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to end that relationship. I believe that, I initially believed that they're good in the company, and I said yes to them, and I started, expecting things that I cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's very hard. This is the hardest thing to do, but it's the art of firing at the right time. Like, I think it's our responsibility as leaders to know when someone is not good for the company, as hard as it sounds, and as hard as it can feel, because it's not a good feeling when you say, hey, no, it's, like, Sally, we gave you the chance, but we cannot work anymore. It's the hardest thing to do, but it has to happen.
Mm-hmm. For those people that you fired, and obviously that's, like you said, is the hardest thing to do, especially when you build a relationship, right, with someone.
Mhm.
It's like, do you have any tips to go about that?
Yeah, so you got to build a culture of transparency. Like, just everyone, you have to be transparent with everyone up front, and then you
Mm-hmm.
also promote that concept to everyone, so you expect the same thing from everyone as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it a lot easier. I tell them, like, look, I'm not happy with your output. Like, I'm not, I'm not getting result. I'm not doing this for the sake of, you gotta, so this is how this is the first person that I fired, which was really hard for me to do. And this is how I thought about it, to make it, to kind of get it, to understand like why it should happen. So look,
Mm-hmm.
if I don't fire them, first of all, it's not good for them, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm incentivizing them for the wrong thing. It's going to affect their characteristic. It's going to form a new personality, which then no other company will also like. So they're going
Mm-hmm.
to be left jobless when I say no to them. So
Yeah, of
I got
course.
to be upfront and tell them, not for my sake, for their sake. And the
Mm-hmm.
second thing is, I'm not like, it's not just me. You got to think of the company. Like, you got to prioritize the company before you.
Yeah.
Like, prioritizing yourself is just, it's ego driven. It's not like, if you want to focus on growing the company, then the company comes first. If the company is not, if the company going to be damaged, if the other employees in the company who are also being, getting money like to support their family from us, then, I'm not going to risk their life. So you gotta be upfront. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no easy shortcut about, like, you just gotta do it. You gotta, it's like, okay, look, this is the time. Like, I gave you one warning. Obviously, we try to give people a chance, but it's just, we gotta be quick about it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because people
Okay.
don't. You can never learn a fish to fly, and I had to learn that the hard way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's just partially because of your somewhat being inexperienced at the time of trying to visual thinking hiring someone and believing in them when their skills were not there? And kind of now you pay
Correct.
more attention to who you're hiring, so you don't have to
Mhm.
fire people that often as well.
Yeah, that's right. It's just lack of experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I,
Okay.
I never had, like, never, like, I started this all myself and my business partner, which we both didn't have a previous business experience. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't go to like a business school. We just, like, we're learning everything,
On
like
the go.
first-hand experience. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
on the go, like you say. So yeah, so that's one reason. I also, like, I used to believe in something Gary Vaynerchuk says as well. You got to hire fast, fire faster.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm on the edge of hiring slower and firing faster. I think
Mm.
that's been more effective in our company. Just make, like you said, have more candidates, like, to talk to more people. Whether you talk to clients, whether you talk to employees, you got to talk to more people, and then you have more. When you have more options, you instantly become more picky, and your standards go higher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. So you also mentioned that, in order to start scaling up, you have to be profitable and you have to kind of pick your team. What are the other things that you could recommend for someone who wants to scale up?
I mean, building a system and building a team, like, you can break that down to so many different components,
Mm-hmm.
and like, it just is a like, it's gonna be like, each of this topic, like, is something that you can search about, and it will take you days, weeks, and months, or like, some people try to be excellent at these two things for years, and they still have room for improvement. So
Mm-hmm.
those two things are, like, I think those two things help me to grow, like, because when you can learn how to replicate that, then that's one way you can obviously grow. You need to save more time. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing is, I guess one thing is the platform we started using, like the system, like, we started using platform where clients can communicate with us a lot easier. So
Mm-hmm.
we're using, we started using a platform where, like, Facebook group, but it's just for our business. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's our own platform where clients can come and we all communicate together. So it saves so much time for our team to also, not having to overly communicate, which happens a lot in marketing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course, like, especially with meetings, like, a lot of some of my, I was fortunate to work with some franchise, like some well-known franchises here in Australia. And one thing that they always tell me is the marketing has just become all these pointless, meetings. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
this meeting paradox that happens in marketing. Like, people just talk over and over again, for hours every week, and then you ask them at the end of the meeting, what's happening now, and it's just like nothing. So this is what I would say. One more thing. This is one more thing that's also important. Result over everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just that when you and this is something that I probably would have said maybe 2 years ago as well, but now the way I understand that is just so different. Like, your client's result, like that's what you get paid for. And there's nowhere you can escape that. Like you're gonna start not losing clients, like not losing unqualified clients if you're getting them result. They all want to be with you. Like
Of course.
there's no like that's you need to improve your skills. So that's one other thing that I started becoming a bit of more of an analyst, like looking at like what's working in the company, what's not working in the company. I was like, okay, so this service, like we're offering like 5 services, let's say, and out of this 5, like majority of our income is coming from this one. And out of this one, like this is the method we're using in this one service that's getting majority of the client result. That's why I ended up choosing, flooring and blind, because that method was working the best for them at the time. So that became my niche. So that started improving. So the the metrics of result, that should be something that you religiously look at all the time and see like what can you go and what components you can add. To give you one simple example, like just you get a lead, you can get it, you can have a lead generation for this home improvement for your business, and you get all these leads in an Excel spreadsheet and you give it to client. By just having that's the easiest thing you can do. And there's so many other components that you can add to this system where you can improve the conversion. You can have funnels. You can have, you can actually learn about branding, which just opens up your, it's, you're going to think about marketing in a different paradigm. So, and then you start, by having the leads, and now you start sending them an SMS and sending them an, sending them an email right away after they sign up. Like how much would that increase the conversion? And it's a big number. So we, so we did this test and we realized, okay, so let's like business doesn't have to be complicated. But let's simplify everything, write it on a whiteboard. What are these components that will have the highest amount of outcome for our clients? And let's just duplicate that for more people. And that's how you can break through the 100K.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to bring results to your clients. And I do think that because some of them are not really good at sales as well, by doing the SMS, the reminders, I think you increase the chances of the leads actually showing up, converting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we had it for ourselves, like included, we were getting lots of appointments. I also mentioned before as well. And there was a time where we're getting lots of appointments and not many people, like let's say 1 out of 5 turn up. Like that's a waste of time. I don't remember the exact data if it was 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4, but I remember it wasn't an good impressive number. We started having three pre-written email, 3 pre-written SMS that they get, they receive even before the meeting, like like an hour before the meeting. Oh yeah, your meeting is going to be started soon. You ready? With a question mark. And do those things to be on top of the client's mind, because in some cases, like people are so busy right now, thanks to social media, like just everyone forget what was the last ad you saw on Facebook? Like people don't remember. They might even sign up for it, but they forget about it. So that's like you gotta be on top of people's mind, and the person who follows up with the customer more online or offline, they win the client.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you were really good at sales. What are your techniques of closing a client? If you could share a few of what you do when it comes to closing, for example.
Yes, plenty. But look, so one thing is framing. So that's like, I think if you pre-frame the conversation you have with clients right, like your chances just increase so much. That's something I learned. Like one good person that you can learn this from is Dan Lok. I don't like, so there's a lot of mixed opinions about him. Yeah, like there's a lot of mixed opinions about him. Like I must say, like a lot of like videos that claim that he's a scam artist. Like I don't like, I'm not against anyone. Like I think like everyone you can learn, like even people who might not have the good intention, you can still learn a lot from them. And well, that's one thing that I think Dan Lok is great at, is he's good at framing the people he talked to. So one thing I'll learn is when I talk to new clients, I tell them upfront at the very start, look, this is, there's 2 outcomes that could happen after this meeting. We could either stop working together, or, we can, yeah. So that pre-framing, like it helped me a lot by pre-framing. And so I started by just doing it more, I got better at it. And the method that I'm using is the Jordan Belfort's methodology in sales. So he has a straight line. So he's just okay. So always the goal is to close, like no matter what, anytime at any stage you're talking to the client, whether you're just saying hi, like you always should be closing. And that's like that it actually works. Like it is sometimes like you could talk about like you start talking about the lockdown in Melbourne, and it just becomes a new conversation. So that already tells a client that your time doesn't matter. you don't value your time as much. So it just, you
Um,
always should be calling, still
mhm.
not be disrespectful to the client, obviously, but you need to make sure that the client knows your time matters, and you're there for one reason.
So you actually use the technique when Dan Locke says, you know, dear Mr. Prospect, we are going to have,
Hmm.
either we have business together or we don't. I'd rather you say, to me than say, I'll think about it, right? That is the technique that you use.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So that's the way he pre-frames the meeting.
And that's actually working.
Definitely, it helps a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, because there's so many clients, like it's so much easier to close them on the spot. When I measure, when I set it, and when the time I didn't say it, like that actually has a big impact.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my conversion rate has definitely gone higher.
Wow. I have to start doing that because again, I do the same thing when I make them say yes, but at the same time, I've never been so upfront because I thought that this technique is a bit like upfront, but I think it's also disqualifying people who are not, they don't
Right.
want to work with you, right? Why hide it?
Yeah, look, the one thing is like the mindset of like when you can sometimes you can talk to clients, and like everybody wants to be liked. Like I want people to like me.
Mm-hmm.
But people, if you haven't go through your life, the decisions you made, you end up buying from people who you trust, not from people you like. And there's like and that's something that Dan Luck, I think that's something that he's kind of focusing on. Like he's not
Mm-hmm.
he's not the most charismatic guy on the planet, but he's very trustworthy when he speaks. And he speaks
Mm-hmm.
calm, he speaks slowly. So yeah, so that's that's one thing I learned as well. And the other thing is asking the tough questions from clients.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes we get scared to ask them, like okay, what you can, and that transparency also, like it reflects on the way they talk to me as well. It also becomes more transparent when I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking to the client. Hey, look, is it the money? Like, what, you don't have the money, or is it the
Mm-hmm.
and it's cool, like, but then them it's not gonna be disrespectful when they know I have this sort of attitude where I'm transparent
Mm-hmm.
with them. They'll also be transparent with me. Like I have, like I said, work with franchises where I'm bet they haven't shared their finances to many people,
Mm-hmm.
but they share it with us. Because I tell them, like, look,
Wow.
marketing is like accounting. Like if you don't share, like if you like you gotta trust your legal team, your marketing team, and your accountants.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. I need to know your data. How much money do you make? So
Mm-hmm.
that like these are tough questions to ask, but they end up becoming it helps with you closing the client, because you need to know why the hell they're not getting it.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
think what helped me is to be adopting a doctor mentality when you don't consider
Mhm.
yourself as a salesperson, but as someone who genuinely wants to help and they need to know the symptoms in order for you to, help them, cure them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
So let's talk about the pandemic a bit, if you don't mind, and just
Sure.
has it been any impact on your business?
Definitely. Well, I work with flooring and blinds, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not online businesses. They're so
Mm-hmm.
it does affect, so I have to adapt really quick, like
Mm-hmm.
from early on, that okay, what we're gonna do now. We're gonna get them leads, like the client cannot go to them anymore, which like right now in Melbourne there's a lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to readjust quickly, like that. So it kind of pushes me to even think outside of what my service scope is.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to do it because I like I know that, like, we need to think outside the box for client. But we have virtual showrooms now. The client can be there without actually being there. So now we have,
Wow.
like, we can actually book online meetings. You
Mm-hmm.
can we can, so there's ways you can get around it.
Mm-hmm.
And by just like have we need to just be better at getting more qualified, nurtured leads for our clients, so those leads are still happy to say yes to deals that are, like, harder to get, say, that it's usually harder for them to say yes to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it adapts, like, it's just the pandemic forced, like, especially with marketing, like, you got to be really good at what you're doing to to
Mm-hmm.
still get the same not the same, obviously the result has gone down. It has got harder for me to get new clients. It has got harder to get the same clients result, but it's not impossible. It's still, like, you can still push through the, it's people
Mm-hmm.
versus virus. Like, you got to
Mm-hmm.
push through the force.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's awesome. I think that's important to have the skill to be adapting to the situation that's in front of you. I
Right.
think you did really good with the virtual, meetings as well. I think that's a really good idea that you come up with. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned a lot of books as well during our conversation. Like, what are the most important books for you that really shifted your perception and helped you grow your business yourself? Like, if you could recommend a few for the listeners.
Right. Okay. The book I read is not it's not like you can probably read the summary and you can get the idea of the book. Like it's not really practical when you open the book, but it really changed my life. It's 5 a.m. club. So it's a concept where you gotta wake up 5 a.m. in the morning, and then you have to have a rigid routine where you follow every morning, and that gets you ready for the day to have a good productive day. And that was a really good book that that again, the concepts might not be that much. It's just you got to wake up 5 a.m. You exercise, you read a book and like self-reflect. But that book just like like I've been following that sort of routine, and it's been helping me to be a lot more productive. I feel like there's few things like we all know it's good, but we don't do it. Like for example, one thing is self-reflection. Like we don't really go through our day and see, okay, I got this many things done yesterday. This was the outcome for this client, this project, and this is what I got. And this is what I did this week. This is what and then you start self-evaluating, like what could I have done better? What could, out of all these tasks I did, like I go through my tasks, like what could have I eliminated? What could have I improved on? And that like self-reflection helps a lot. Exercise helps, like I'm more energetic when I exercise. And also reading a book too, like just I try to read books every morning and try to kind of acquire new knowledge, and try to not just read but to implement it like straight away, like try to turn it into like actual wisdom. Try not the learning is not enough. But so that's one good book that helped me. And the other one, Good to Great, that was a great book as well. Like that's like kind of that's the book that kind of helped me to think of, I gotta make things simple, just be great at one thing, just be the best at one thing and forget about everything else. Like the business doesn't have to be too complicated. The other one, Sell Like Crazy by Sebri. That's a great marketing book. So he talks about sales, but he's a marketer. So he talks about, you learn about copywriting, you learn about funnels, you learn about, how you can have your landing page. Like it's very helpful. It's very practical. So that's a great book as well. Yeah. I guess these are the top three that I can think on top of my mind.
Thank you so much for those recommendations. I have a segment that I started to implement lately, and it's about fuck ups. If you had to mention what was your biggest fuck up during your agency career, what would you say?
There's plenty. So look, we had this, so one big fuck up that I can think of on top of my, like, it probably is the biggest one. We had a client, and this was like, at the time, this was our biggest client at the time. Like a majority of our revenue came from this one client. And like, this was going to be like we're talking $1 million deal. Like this was going to be a massive project. And I just didn't focus on it. Like, you only get opportunities few times in life, and like certain opportunities kind of boost you up so much. And at the time, I just become, I thought that's my norm now. I'm going to get every client that is going to be the same. And I didn't put enough time and focus on that one client, and just treated them like every other client, even though it had that potential. Like it wasn't just, it wasn't just conversation. Like we were going that way. Like, and already most of my income come from there. So I think not being like, I like to say like that I'm very capitalistic, but I should have been more capitalistic at the time. Like the clients giving me more money, I need to serve more value to those clients that are giving me more. Same happened with employee as well. Like, you got to look at your employees. Whoever is doing more, they got to get more incentive. And if that's not the culture, which is not in most businesses, even, I see a lot of experience, like people who are working for a long time, that's not the way they set their business. There's just a fixed income. So there should be, so not having that capitalistic approach, especially with that client, that was my biggest fuck up.
I think obviously when you start out, you don't really know those things as well. So I think that would explain. So would you go about it differently now? Would you be like, okay, if it's the highest paying client, then I focus all my energy or most of my energy on that, right?
Yeah, I will be capitalistic. I will see how my income is on that client, and I'll put the same, like I will allocate the same amount of time on that client. I'll make it more fair.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question.
um, let's go back a bit about company culture and team building, because I feel like your approach is a bit different than anyone else's, because you said, oh, you have a Facebook group and then you don't waste time on meetings too much. Like, do you have still a very clear expectation from your employees, or how do you go about that to build a company culture?
Yeah, so like, look, we have weekly meetings. Like I say, we want to have a culture of growth. We want to have a culture of transparency. Like again, like that's a really big one, because like later on when you want to fire them, it's going to be impossible. Like it's going to be hard. Like you're going to be stifled. But when you have that transparency, it's a lot easier. And also that, obviously the expectation has to be clear. It has to be clear. You got to know every single person. If they're confused, they're not going to work. Like this is like lack of work, lack of productive it's caused by you not being certain about what you're doing or what you're here for. So that happens with with employees sometimes as well. They need to know to the dot exactly what your expectation from each project is. And we even have we have our hourly KPI where so this is what we're expecting from you. This is productivity. Like they calculate the GPA of the whole country by their level of productivity. Like we got to be productive. A company that's that's growing is productive, so we need to measure that. So we have KPI, hourly KPI, and we discuss those. We have a weekly. We also have a weekly accountability meeting as well,
Oh,
where we
wow.
go through we actually go through numbers. If there's certain questions we ask them, like why is this client result, like why is the outcome for this client gone down? What happened? Like what's happening with this sort of content? Like the engagement seems going down. Like so we have that type of meeting to make sure everyone knows that this is we obviously care about the client's result, and we want to be productive, and we also want to be growing and while being transparent.
It's so interesting when you mentioned that you are thriving for excellence. And I think I heard it from Brian Tracy initially the first time. And but he was also mentioning that if you pick a niche, for example, you want to be excellent at what you do, right, in your niche. He said that you have to pick a niche and you have to see if you can be the best at. Obviously, you have to look at who is doing really well, and you have to see if you can exceed that person. And if you can't exceed that person, you have to pick a different niche or a different, career, whether it's sales or marketing.
Absolutely. So like I said, like you got to choose one. And it's the concept of blue ocean strategy. Like it just be too messy if you try. If you cannot, like right now, marketing is as red as it gets. Like every street corner, there's someone who claims to be a marketing expert. So we need we cannot be good is not enough anymore. Good is not enough to break through the income barriers. We gotta so that's I totally agree. Like you just gotta see what. And like if you're already if you haven't established a company, like you want to start a new agency, then or if you're early on your agency, then you got to look, okay, what am I, so there's few questions you got to ask. Like one is, right now, currently my current income, where is it coming from? What is the exact service that I'm offering that is coming, where is that coming from? The second thing is what I'm good at. What are you personally, you and your team, like what everybody, in your team or yourself, like what are you good at that you can offer? And also, where do you see that, obviously starting, like you said, starting the competitors, starting what others are offering, how can you compete with that? Like, how can you be the best in the world? Like, it's how much there's supply in the market for that service. And again, I went through, I think this is really something that most people, and it's very practical, but most people fell short on it. Like I called most of our competitors and I said, I'm a client, to see what their process is like. And you can get
Wow.
so much knowledge, you can get there's so much insight you can get, especially you can go for people who are way ahead of you, and then you can still not still, but model, let's say. You can model what they're doing and implement it for your own business. It's a concept of similar to what Russell Brunson called it, funnel hacking. Like you can hack someone's business. We don't have to, some cases we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I think that's a great
Yeah.
advice, to just go to your competitors and just be a customer and see how they treat you. What are the questions that they're asking you, especially if they're trying to sell you, to let them sell you, let them see what,
Yeah,
how they do it.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Definitely.
I think it's a great approach, and a lot of people are afraid of even doing that, and just going to their competitors and just see what they have to do because I don't know why.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
well,
it's one of those things like when you break down your task list like into four category. So the way I do it is the same with the 7 habits of successful people. One is things that are urgent and are important that you have to do, then you cannot avoid. There's
mhm,
one that's urgent and not important.
mhm,
So those things you gotta outsource. One is this important, not important and not urgent. You gotta outsource, and there's one that people never spend time on. This is
mhm,
working on your business, not in your business. Things that are not urgent but are important.
mhm,
People don't like. I don't think I see enough leaders and CEOs spending enough time here. Like this, if you spend enough time here, your income will go higher. The
mhm,
rest will just maintain where you're at.
mhm,
That the challenge is how can you save more time and be more productive so you can spend more time on tasks that are not urgent but are important, like calling your competitors.
mhm.
And there's many tasks like that we all know what's the right thing to do, but we just because we kind of stuck in the business, it's hard to break out of it.
Um, I heard from a lot of agency owners that their ultimate goal is to really step out of the agency and just be observing and just make sure everything is automated and maybe spend 20% just, closing people perhaps, or just have one task that they keep for themselves and the rest they outsource. Like, what's your take on that? Because I don't feel like you want to step out of the business anytime soon.
No, look, because look, there it depends what you want. You gotta be self-aware. I did this the Gary, like at one point I was kind of opposed that idea. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
why you got to be the greatest? Like, why would you say to someone they should be patient? Like, just let them, I want to be the greatest now. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing is you got to know yourself, because I gave that advice to many of my close, like, my either relatives or my
Mm-hmm.
friends, and I convinced them to become business owners. And like, because I'm influential, and I wasn't responsible because I influenced them to be someone they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And then they like, and then down the track. So you got to see what you want out of life,
Mm-hmm.
and then you think backwards. Right now I'm taking the approach of being the greatest business I can be,
Mm-hmm.
and like I want to be like, I don't want it to stop. So uh yeah, so you got to be in a position where everything is automated and systemized, and as much as you can dedicate, but you still have your input is still important working on the business. It doesn't like I don't want to be in a place where like the business earns money, I get income, and I sit in like near the beach with my laptop, with my partner, and I'm just enjoying. Like I don't want that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just self-aware, and there's nothing wrong with that, or there's nothing wrong with like any approach that people want to have. So if that's something that makes you happy, like I like working. I
Mm-hmm.
like I like to hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I like to come to office at the same time, just work, grind it out, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to see where I can improve myself, build my characteristics, start learning more. And there's no stop to it. I don't like there's no point of stop. So that's where I'm self-aware. It's not
Mm-hmm.
good. It's not something that everybody has to follow, but it's just I know if I don't have anything to do, I will come back to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not don't have to do anything, what will you do? It's just like some people I know so some people might not want to work as much, and that's fine. But it just starts from knowing like why do you exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. And I feel the same way. And I always get shit
Mhm.
on by people like, oh my God, you're a workaholic. Like, why can't you just stop? You work on the weekends. Um, and a lot of people obviously want to step out of their businesses. So I'm so happy that you have the same like mindset that you just want to grind and you want to work. And no matter what, you feel fulfilled and accomplished to be doing what you're doing right now. Yeah. And if you just had to do nothing, that you would not feel as productive or fulfilled. Personally, I feel the same way. So I'm so glad that there's someone else who feels the same way. You don't
Yeah, we're
necessarily have
totally
to
on the
step
same
out.
page. Absolutely. I relate.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Sam, for being here and giving those advices. Do you have something that you do? Do you do consulting? Like, is because obviously you have a really good insight on how to scale up from that 100K. Is this something that you're planning to do more and help agency owners as well? Can you tell us a bit more about that, or is just something that you wanted to share with the listeners?
No, I will be opening, I will be opening my channel where I
Mm-hmm.
will do, I will try to aim to add value. I got
Mm-hmm.
nothing to sell, so
Mm-hmm.
but my ultimate goal is to add value and help people. I know it's not easy sometimes. You don't know some of the questions you have, especially I think one thing that I can add value with my upcoming channel. Maybe I can send you a link and then maybe I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
you can put it somewhere. But
Yeah, of course.
one thing that what I see is we consume contents from people that are so ahead of us that their advice is not really personalized for us anymore. It's like
Wow,
they're
that's
like
really good.
you look into the book Principle by Ray Dalio,
Mm-hmm.
and they might say like build the business top down. Like you're like, oh, this is a cool concept, and we I'm like, okay, that's good, but sometimes certain things don't apply to you where you at. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta know like from like the 10K a month business, like the principles that you got to follow is different from 20K, from 30K
Mm-hmm.
to 40K.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so I can hopefully be more relatable to people who are where I'm at or where I was you know like a year or 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I really can't wait. Do you already have the channel, or you want to create it in the future?
Oh, I haven't uploaded any videos yet, but I will be uploading soon.
Okay, cool. Okay, we'll make sure to link your channel in the description as well of this podcast,
Yeah, for sure.
whenever
No
it's
worries,
airing, so
definitely.
people can come learn from you. Do you also do consultation for people that are in need of your input as well? Like, is this something that you are thinking about doing, to consult people who are listening
No,
and like, okay, I need Sam to tell me how to do this?
I'm not doing like just I will have to dedicate time to if I want to go on
Mm-hmm.
if I will be on my channel. I will obviously try to respond
Mm-hmm.
to as many comments as I can, and I will make videos
Mm-hmm.
what people but I'm not right now. I'm not doing any
Okay.
one-on-one consultation.
Oh, that's okay. I think a lot of people can learn from the videos as well that you're gonna put out. All right. Thank you so much, Sam, for being here. You're awesome,
No
and I
worries.
really
Thank you.
wish you
Appreciate
good
it.
luck.
Same ways. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone.
Thank you so much for being here. Bye bye.
Take care. Goodbye.